Going from one client to five feels like finding your rhythm. Going from 5 to 15 feels like carrying a stack of plates that's getting taller, heavier, and dangerously unstable. Every growing agency hits a point where adding just one more account threatens the quality of the entire roster. This chart shows the standard expectation for agency growth. As your client roster grows, moving along the bottom here from 0 to 50 plus, your revenue climbs steadily. To handle that volume, the usual assumption is that you simply hire more talented account managers to keep pace. But here is what actually happens. Right around the 10 client mark, operational overhead suddenly spikes, crossing right over your revenue line. The complexity of managing multiple accounts doesn't grow linearly, it compounds. This red zone is the scaling chasm. It happens because agencies try to solve a structural systems problem with heroic individual effort. A talented account manager working late can save one messy campaign, but they cannot save 20. Crossing this gap requires transitioning out of bottlenecked manual labor. This transition happens by reevaluating how the team is structured, how the technology is stacked, and how the agency handles communication. Adding headcount before building foundational infrastructure ensures that every new client adds more noise than profit, eventually breaking the agency's ability to scale. Before you buy software, you must decide how your humans operate. Software only automates the organizational structure you already have in place. This diagram breaks down the two primary ways to organize your agency. On the left, we have the pod model. This relies on small, cross-functional teams, say an account manager, a copywriter, and an ad specialist, dedicated entirely to a specific subset of clients. When you use pods, your team develops deep, highly specific brand familiarity. Internal communication accelerates because the same three people collaborate on the exact same accounts every single day. However, pods inherently create knowledge silos. Pod A might figure out a highly effective ad strategy, but Pod B never hears about it. That leads to inconsistent service quality across your wider client base. On the right is the specialist model. Here, all client work is routed through strict, discipline-specific departments. All copywriting goes to the copy team, all campaigns go to the ads team. This guarantees that your highest-level expertise is applied consistently across every single account. It also maximizes internal resource utilization, so nobody sits idle if one specific pod happens to have a slow week. The trade-off here is a lack of holistic vision. No single person deeply understands the client's total picture, which risks making accounts feel neglected or processed like an assembly line. A small boutique shop can survive with a loose hybrid approach. But as your agency scales, you have to choose a distinct model, and that requires highly specialized tracking to keep deliverables moving between hands. Regardless of the model you pick, uneven workload distribution will burn your team out. You need strict capacity thresholds and visible workload dashboards to score account complexity and prevent any one employee from taking on too much. Selecting a structure is not about finding a flawless system. It is about intentionally choosing which operational weaknesses your leadership team is best equipped to manage. Once your structure is chosen, your technology stack has one job: rigidly enforce it. Tools do not replace human strategy. They act as the guardrails that keep that strategy on track. This 3D framework maps the essential tech stack. This base layer represents security and access, specifically antidetect browsers like Sendwin, which provide the isolated environment necessary for every other tool to function safely. By giving each client account its own isolated browser profile, your team can switch instantly between dozens of accounts. You avoid logging out, you stop triggering platform security blocks, and you never share raw passwords across the team. Implementing this means incurring specialized software costs. More importantly, it forces your staff to break their deeply ingrained habits of using standard native browser profiles. Moving up the pyramid, we hit layer 3, project management, tools like Monday.com or Asana. This acts as the central nervous system for all cross-client deliverables. It centralizes every deadline, every approval, and all capacity tracking into a single source of truth. Your entire team can look at the dashboard and know exactly where an account stands. But this demands high initial setup time and total compliance. If even one team member decides to track their tasks in a private notebook, the entire flow bottlenecks and stops. Optional adoption of a tech stack guarantees failure. Strict enforcement of these tools is the dividing line between agencies that run efficiently and those that drown in their own growth. Managing dozens of clients means fielding dozens of different opinions and emergencies. Unstructured, ad hoc communication flooding in through emails, texts, and calls causes paralyzing distraction and destroys your team's ability to execute. This grid illustrates the tiered communication model. It categorizes your clients by retainer size and complexity into premium, standard, and basic rows, establishing rigid boundaries for access. By explicitly mapping meeting frequencies, weekly for premium, bi-weekly for standard, and monthly for basic, you drastically reduce unbillable hours and fiercely protect your team's deep work time. The trade-off is navigating awkward expectation-setting conversations. Restricting a basic tier client to automated reports and email can cause friction, particularly with legacy clients accustomed to unrestricted access. To further protect capacity, agencies must shift toward async-first communication. Instead of scheduling a 30-minute live status meeting, you use recorded video updates to walk clients through their weekly numbers. Going async is highly efficient, but it sacrifices real-time rapport building. You have to compensate for that loss by executing highly strategic quarterly reviews to prove your long-term value and secure retention. Enforcing rigid communication boundaries protects the high-quality work the client is paying for. Without these filters, the quality of the deliverables inevitably declines as the roster grows. Timing is everything. Deploying enterprise-level systems in a small boutique agency will crush it under administrative overhead, but delaying those systems will break a scaling agency in half. This scorecard maps exactly what you need at each phase. For a boutique agency managing 1 to 5 clients, prioritize foundational onboarding playbooks and Layer 1 secure access. Document the basics and lock down your logins. When you reach the scaling phase of 10 to 30 clients, the demands change. You must definitively select a pod or specialist team structure, and you must rigorously enforce tiered communication to protect your margins. At the enterprise tier, with 50 or more clients, the focus shifts to pure volume management. This requires completely automated reporting pipelines and rigorous peer review audits to catch errors before deliverables ship. Surviving at this enterprise level requires a psychological shift. The founder must transition entirely away from client deliverables and focus solely on managing the operational systems themselves. The operational danger lies in attempting to borrow strategies from a tier you have not yet reached, or refusing to abandon the strategies of a tier you have already outgrown. Sustainable growth demands deliberately choosing an operational architecture today, rather than waiting for the sheer volume of clients to force a catastrophic collapse tomorrow. True agency scalability is achieved only when your capacity to take on new work is completely decoupled from your raw headcount. Build the systems, and the systems handle the scale.